You're listening to Conversations Along the Way, part of the Stoic Mom Project. At the SMP, we embrace the Stoic principle of the obstacle is the way, whether we can take the hardest things in our lives and use them as a way to learn and grow into the best versions of ourselves. If you're here, you're likely a growth-oriented parent of a young person who's adopted a trans identity. I'm Stoic Mom, a life coach and educator who is also a growth-oriented parent of an adult trans-identified daughter. The conversation you're about to listen to is part of a special series in which I talk with other moms determined to find healthy ways of navigating gender ideology in their homes. Moms whose stories and strategies may inspire you. I hope you find value and wisdom from my conversation with this Stoic Mama.
I realize more and more that the experiences that we have are unique because we are each different as an individual. And yet when we share honesty, with full honesty and also with compassion, there's so much that we can just give by being yourself, and yeah, just showing up. This is me, The only reason I'm telling you this is because I've been hearing this for the past 8-9 months. This year has been probably the hardest on record for me. I'm 56, so and that is of course a reflection of the experience with Gwen and her evolution. And I mean, if I say that it has been difficult for me as a 56-year-old, I cannot imagine for this kid that is 18, right? So I am trying to be also compassionate.
Yes, I appreciate you saying that. I just posted something like that in the community this morning for the SMP moms, that having compassion for our child's
For our
experience
child.
because they're I think a lot of moms feel betrayed. And I while I can understand that feeling, I think it gives our kids, frankly, too much credit. I don't think that they can resist the forces that are working on them right now. Yeah.
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 You said this, and the image I have immediately is the circumstances are like a big spider web. And there's no
Mhm.
spider in the center, but everything is so sticky, and they are like little. Oh, okay. They're not flies. They're a bit more resilient than that, let's say, but they are stuck. Like they're little, like,
Mm.
I,
Mhm.
yeah. Oh my
Mhm.
God. Gosh. Yeah, that really, as a mom, you want to always
Mhm.
do the best and remove whatever sources of suffering they are. And then you finally
Mhm.
realize that that's not your job. Your job is to be there, accompany the kid,
Yes.
and just keep the horizon open so that they can learn to be who they are, and hopefully not get too many bumps and bruises in the process,
And not get stuck in that web forever,
and
I
not get
think
stuck in
maybe.
there, right?
Yeah.
But even us, I mean, like I don't, we've had so much experience and we have so many tools in our toolbox, and yet we get stuck
Yes,
so
yes,
easily,
we do.
caught up,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm, mhm. And I appreciate that you bring that up. I do think that that's an important awareness too, is considering whether we're stuck and what that web is. What web are we stuck in? Mhm.
Well, yeah. And do we see it as a way? Because if we recognize it, then we're like, okay, I'm stuck.
Mhm.
How might I get out of this?
Mhm.
Don't know. But with our kid, I mean, I shouldn't generalize. With my kid, for me, has been a lot of figuring out what's my role here.
Mhm.
What am I good for? And and shed all my, I'm a mom, I'm a this, I'm a Latina, I'm a, because there's a lot of living whatever experience you have to live in a country that is not yours. Um, so that's a web that you get stuck in. It's like these expectations from the outside world of it. It
Yes.
should be like this. It should be like this. It should be like this. And And
There were a lot of
you
shoulds
can
in there.
because oh no, if you don't do it like that, then
Hmm.
you get labels. But I'm like, yeah, I arrived here and I already had like a big old backpack of labels because
Hmm.
I moved from Guatemala to the US, and then I came from New York to Brussels, and you know these things, but then very easily you get caught, and
Hmm.
then you have to be like super aware. In our kids are just learning, are just opening their eyes. It's like little puppies, and they're just
Yeah.
doing the thing,
Yes.
automatic movement that puppies have, and they get stuck.
Hmm. 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 Yeah. Oh, what's over here? What's over here?
What's it? And then
Yeah. And like,
they hear,
mm,
I one of my little go-tos to feel love and just little joy is follow a lot of dog rescues all over the
mm,
world on
hmm.
Instagram. That's what I have Instagram for.
Okay.
Also
Yeah.
to connect with some of my friends, but that's the thing I use it for, is to go see the news of how these little organizations are doing, and what's the new dog that they are helping, from what circumstances they're saving them, and it's just so sweet. But may, I've just been seeing these puppies that are growing, and thank goodness that they were born in the rescue and not in the middle of the jungle,
Hmm.
because their movements are so automatic. They're looking
Hmm.
for food. Food
Hmm.
is mom.
Hmm. Hmm.
But then they get stuck in, on the way to mom, there's something else. And then there's six of them. One goes here, and the other one runs because it hears the noise or something. And then they just do a pile, a
Yes.
pile on the puppies. And I'm like, that's not where the food is.
Yeah. Oh,
And then
wow.
there's one
What a great
that's
metaphor. Yes.
clever. Oh, food. And then you see. So I'm thinking, oh my God, our kids are like puppies.
Yeah.
And there's so many things that are standing in the way of them going towards that food, that nutrition, that
Hmm.
nurturing, because
Hmm.
it's no longer us, right? It's not mom
Hmm.
anymore. So they could be
Hmm.
guided by smell, but no, now it's like they gotta eat the food
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
mom doesn't have any more milk.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, I did want to let listeners know that this is our first conversation. You and I have never met before.
No, probably
And you,
have followed, um, because I had to do a lot of research to try and
hmm.
figure out, I don't
Hmm.
know anything about this subject. Who knows? And are we going through similar experiences? What can we learn from each other? So I
Yes.
don't know anymore where I am connected to, and but I think that for me, the focus of our conversation is how to, it's in relation to my child, and the exploration and the evolution, and also the pain that my child is going through, and me as a mother and companion to this child. How are we navigating this? Because I also have another, let's call it another hat, that has to do with, um, how can I put it nicely and softly and silky, that there is a lot of evolution. I hope that is social evolution, and that we're going through a lot of growing pains, and there is a lot of discourse and a lot of division and a lot of pain. Also, that we're going in the painful direction, and then eventually, as with all social evolutions, we're going to find an equilibrium somewhere where we will have evolved. But right now, what I'm seeing is just, I, as a woman, I also have a lot of very woman centric opinions. And that is also a thing that I have to be very, very clear with myself. And also in the conversations that I have everywhere is when I talk and I talk about my child, it is about that experience because I am, as a mother, as a human, accompanying a human being. But then
Mm-hmm.
there is also this other part. I have been always very much about justice and equality and human care and compassion. And I don't see that happening.
Yes.
But
I think we
so I
see
try
the
to
world
keep that,
very similarly. Yeah,
right?
no, I think that's an important part of the conversation is that
Mm.
social, hopefully, evolution, right, of which you
Mm.
speak. And I would agree. I think we are moving through a very painful time
Yeah.
toward the future, whatever that may be. Hopefully, there is more equilibrium
Right?
as
Because
we
yeah,
yes, move through this painful, difficult time that our kids are coming of age during.
yeah.
Hmm.
But also not to neglige. Oh gosh, I have words in French. Not to
Neglect,
minimize
minimize.
and ignore the fact that we,
Yes.
you and I, as or, let me not generalize. I also have learned to just, this is what I am feeling, and maybe we compatize with each other. But what I am feeling, that as a woman, I am going through painful experiences as well as a woman,
Hmm.
because I'm a
Hmm.
woman, and
Hmm.
I do not think that calling myself a woman is a bad word. I am a woman. I am a mother.
Hmm.
you know.
Hmm.
But so that is also very tricky. Um, yeah, because my Gwen was born Edouard, and that has been a navigation without a map to,
Yes.
to accompany this child that was born boy,
Yeah.
and what that meant, and yeah,
So I've heard, so okay, we're talking about your child. Your child is it all right? Again, for the audience, just to give them a little bit of context here, 18.
yeah, 18, yeah.
And I've heard you born a boy, but
Hmm.
has
Hmm.
been part uh y- in your form you said transitioning to woman,
Yes.
and it's been
So
about 5 years since you've been in
uh,
this
in this
circumstance.
in
Okay.
this period, season.
Hmm. And have I
Um,
am I- I'm hearing you use female pronouns, is that right? So you
Not me. I do gymnastics
okay. The
to
verbal gymnastics.
the
Hmm.
verbal gymnastics, and I said it very clearly to my kid. Hmm? You
Hmm.
hear me?
Hmm.
So in English, it's easier to do that. But also, my kid has said, "But you never called me daughter," and I'm like, "Are you my child or not? Are you my kid or not? You are,
Hmm.
right?" When I was
Hmm.
pregnant, I used to call my baby watermelon because
Okay.
I didn't care. I mean, as long the baby's born healthy, I'm happy. The
Yes.
baby's born well, that's what I want. That has
Hmm.
always, but see, this is funny because this has always been my stance. So my baby was watermelon, was also cookies, because the color of the skin is um, reminding of speculoos, which is a
Yes.
very traditional cookie here. And so it's
Okay.
just so funny. And then my father used to call um, my baby colibri, hummingbird.
Mm. Hmm.
So yeah, so to me, it's just I it's verbal gymnastics, but also it's just very, to me, it's very natural in a way, which is really funny. I could have never guessed that I would find myself here. Although as a 15-year-old, I remember me growing up in Guatemala. I didn't want to have that party where they celebrate your 15th birthday, which
The
in the US, everybody now talks about the
quinceañera.
quinceañera.
Uh-huh.
Quinceañera is the girl that is turning 15,
Yes.
but now they call it, I guess in Mexico, a quinceañera is the party. but I categorically refused to have a party or a dress. I had short hair. I wore pants.
Mhm.
I was an athlete at school, track and
Mhm.
field, so I didn't
Mhm.
want to wear dresses. I was wearing sports clothes, and so it's funny that you know I guess it's what we would call I was a tomboy because I was always running around. That's what I was
Mhm.
excited about, running around
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
jumping. And I played with boys a lot because they were faster and funner. And then my kid is coming to tell me at 13, I feel I'm a girl. And I'm like, okay.
Mhm.
Okay. I feel like you're jumping from the boy bucket into the girl bucket without really knowing what you're getting yourself into. Now,
Mhm.
I cannot tell you what it is to be a girl. I can tell you what it is to be me.
Mhm.
And the clothes that I wore when I was 15, I'm a girl. I am a girl, but
Mhm.
what I wear is like a boy could wear. So it's not the clothing.
Mhm.
It's not, I don't know. I really don't know what it is to be a girl. I just know what it is to be me. And I belong to that category. so,
Mhm. Mhm.
so this
Mhm.
is what we started back then. So mental gymnastics, verbal gymnastics, I do them. I do them in Spanish. Sounds really weird. And I do them in French. So people think that I don't speak very good French, even though I've been here for 20 odd years. I'm like, no, I know exactly what I'm saying. You don't
Mm.
know the context. So I have to explain
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
every time that I have a conversation, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, you talked about the complications of raising your kids mostly alone. You said
Mm,
in a
yeah,
country that is not your own, in a language
yeah,
that is your third.
yeah.
Yes. Okay. How incredibly challenging. Can I ask how many kids you have?
Just the one,
Just the one. Okay.
which is worth, I always said, yeah, it's worth it. I always wanted to have more. My dream
Uh-huh.
was to have five boys. Now you can laugh at that. But then I had one and then it didn't work. So we did do a whole few rounds of IVF and never had a second. So I always
Mm.
would joke, so like, oh, I just have the one, but he's worth two.
Mm.
Isn't that like,
Yes.
I don't know. Is that comedy, irony? I don't know. But now I
Mm.
look back and I'm like, I laugh,
Prophetic.
right?
Mm. That is so interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah, you seem very good-tempered about it, at ease now. I'm curious in the form, there's the question, what have you discovered did not work for you? I'd love to start there. When it comes to the relationship, when it comes to how you were showing up in the circumstance, what wasn't working? And how did you figure it out? How long did it take you to figure that out?
Ah, I'm very, very bossy with everybody
Mhm.
because I always think that because I figured it out, this is gonna be easier for everyone. I think in process, step one, step two, step three. That's why I cook so well. So I thought I can apply that, and how can I make it easier, right?
Mm.
Um, and especially in a relationship, a one-to-one, the kid and the mom, and we've been always kind of
Yes.
attached at the hip. So I thought I'm gonna keep applying the same principle, and it has worked really well. I think that actually that attitude of being super bossy and having everything under control and kind of having my kid under my skirt is what
Mm.
we say in Guatemala.
Uh-huh.
Um, that was one of the reasons that have maybe prompted this child to have so much questioning about
Mm.
identity, about who I am, about where I fit, and male versus female, mom versus dad. I was omnipresent and the dad was not. So, I mean, I wonder, I never tried to figure out what's the root cause of anything, but I just think all of these were inputs. That
Mm.
did not
Mhm.
work. That did not work. Uh, we had a couple of years when there was just
We're talking about
kind
the
of a no.
bossy. I'm sorry, it's the bossy that
Yeah,
did not work. Okay.
the
Mhm.
the bossy and the trying to control and the
Uh-huh.
I can figure this out
Hmm.
as a mom,
Okay.
as an
Hmm.
adult, as a that did not work.
And what were you trying
Um,
to figure out?
just how to support the kid better, how to be there in the all the questioning and in all the figuring things out, you know.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Okay.
I could never come out ahead. Like, I don't know if all parents do, but you always try to be a couple of steps ahead. Even if you
Hmm.
don't know anything about the subject, you read, you ask,
Yes.
and then you kind of, okay, I got this. Like, all
Hmm.
right, we're gonna run the marathon, we're gonna get some shoes, right?
Hmm.
That did not work. So that was probably the biggest learning. Um, to kind of learn to dance with the kid
Hmm.
who's
I use a
lost.
dance metaphor often.
Oh my
Yes.
God. And that is
Yes.
working a little bit better.
Okay.
And the other part that didn't work is not showing my feelings.
Mm. Not showing your feelings.
Because,
Say
I mean,
more.
there's
Yeah.
so many feelings. Some I
Yes.
don't understand them, right?
Hmm.
And I don't show them because I don't want to, I don't know, I don't want to kind of taint the air with my sadness and my grief and my
Hmm.
confusion and my this and the that and that. I got this thrown at my face this year. I'm like, yep, I mean, I feel a lot. You see me, I'm very intense and I
Yeah.
show, but I don't, I don't, how can I, while being intense and emotional, I also contain everything really deep inside.
Uh-huh.
And my child felt it and
Yes.
suffered a lot from it. And
Yes.
I didn't know, right? I
Okay.
just thought I'm
Yes.
so talented at
Uh-huh.
feeling,
Uh-huh.
but not showing the full extent of my feelings, but also trying to feel. But if you do not let yourself feel and show what you're feeling, there is no way that you can actually empathize with the feelings of the other person. So this kid has asked me, well, do you realize how much pain I'm going through and and that you're causing that pain?
Oh. Uh-huh.
And I said, no, I didn't. And that
Hmm.
you caused the pain like 3 years ago. Oh, okay. No, I didn't. So those two things didn't work. One to be bossy and the other one to kind of um, not feel.
So I'm thinking of the adjective stoic. Is that kind of what you were going for? Was um to at least appear stoic to your son?
Mm, that's very fancy. I think I was just trying to not be raggedy, you know.
Yeah, you said not taint. You didn't want to taint things with your sadness and okay. But they're so attuned to us, aren't they? Right?
Yeah.
They pick up on it whether we think we're showing it or not.
Yeah. And there's also one thing is
Hmm.
that it is not possible to be compassionate to another if you're not like touching your inside with your hand, like your emotions with your hand.
Mm. Hmm. 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 Yeah, I would agree.
So
Mhm.
I was called on that.
We have to be
Like,
in tune with our own emotions. Is that and you're saying, can I ask more detail about that? This keeps
mm,
coming up that
mm,
it's been an especially hard year and that you've had
ugh,
to look at this particular aspect of yourself. Can you tell us a
mm.
little bit more?
Well, it's the last year of high school, and I have been as the father is present, but we've been divorced, and the kid and I have such like a like a intertwined relationship that it's always been kid and mom, kid and mom, kid and mom.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, it's also has been, like I said, for 5 years, I've been thinking of my plan of I'm going to start splitting my time, which means I'm going to be able to just go where I want to as an adult human,
Mm-hmm.
as a woman, professionally, but just me, right? And so I've been trying to make my space because I feel asphyxiated. And so um, I felt that this was the last year, and we had gone through a very hard year. You know, the fifth grade, 11th grade, so fifth secondary here. And I thought, okay, so we've built all the bases. Now we're set to go. And Gwen just started hormones in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the buildup of the hormones just really came and hit us in the face. I mean, like hit us everywhere. I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
prepared for that. I wasn't prepared also for the fact that sixth grade, the last year of high school, is supposed to be not the easiest, but like much easier than the year before. In general, it's like supposed to be like, woo,
Okay.
kind of a
Mm-hmm.
celebratory, and it wasn't. But I think it was
Mm-hmm.
first and foremost because of the hormones. Then it just started becoming so difficult, and this kid and I were not prepared to having this level of difficulty mentally.
Mm.
um, and the stress started building, the anxiety started building for Gwen, um, to a level of psychosomatic, you know, displays. It was so difficult.
Mm.
And the kid did not go to school.
Okay.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, what do you do? And I was also me, it's me like, okay, now I'm going to start building my own path. And okay, I'm going to start building my own path, but I can't because the kid is sick. I have to take the kid to the doctor. Kid is missing
Ah.
school. There's
Uh-huh.
anxiety. We had
Okay.
to we had to find treatments for anxiety and insomnia, like serious treatments. And guess who's the hub? Who holds all the
Yeah.
strings? Who's the one who knows everything? Not the school, not the psychologist, not the
Right.
new psychiatrist, not the. It's me. So everything
Yes.
was on me. So I was in a way kind of rebelling against it, but I couldn't. I just can't,
Almost like life was telling you you are not done parenting this
not.
child. You've
And hello. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I had to come to terms with that while also not forgetting myself. So, how do you do that? How do you
Right.
hold the two extremes?
Yes. Yeah. It's the paradox, isn't it? Yes. And that is, I'm so focused on the paradox these days, but that's what I'm hearing. You're
It
ready
was
to
that
kind of let go, right? And that is being demanded of you to let go of his experience in some
as
ways,
well.
and you're also having to navigate and manage all these things for him. So and just so listeners know, like you interlaced your fingers when you said entwined,
Oh,
and
God.
that's
Yeah.
kind of what comes to mind to me right now, right? Like you're still entwined. You're trying to let go. It's that dance, isn't it? It's that sort of individuation dance that we do at this point,
At this point.
because I think, back to the state of the world socially, our kids are not the I mean, coming of age is always difficult, but I think
Mhm.
it's become ever more so in this painful time, you know.
In general, and then
Yeah.
for kids like Gwen, that they have to deal with not only the general state of the world, but also their their own layer of complexity in addition to what everybody else goes as well of coming of age, of finding
Mhm.
yourself.
Mhm. Mhm.
There's not only uncertainty, but also there is, I am sure that there is a level of how can I, it's like pointing the finger at you. You do not accept yourself. Actually, that was also
Mm.
part of this, why the year is so difficult, is that this kid was so clearly saying, I mean, I knew it all along, but that said it, I just hate myself.
Mm.
And I'm like, you cannot start from that.
Mm.
Whether you like yourself or not, to build yourself to what you're going to become, you got to start from the kernel of, I accept myself,
Mhm.
my
Mhm.
imperfect me. And
Mhm.
that was not possible. So I think the hormones, the psychosomatic circumstances, also the pressure of this is the last year of school and I
Yeah.
have to become an adult, and me just like,
Yeah.
blah. So, oh my God,
Yeah. Yeah.
we're here.
Yeah. Can I'd like to, if it's all right with you, um, understand. It sounds like he started hormones a couple years ago, is what you're
Hmm,
saying. And I'm curious,
let's see exactly. We are in September, so exactly 18 months ago.
18 months ago. Okay. So he would have been
No,
16.
she was 17. So
Okay.
um 17.
17. Okay.
And
Okay.
now, well, yeah, in a few months it'll be 19th birthday next year, February. So 18 months.
Okay.
And can you imagine? This is
Did
also
you have
something
to
that
okay that? And do you mind sharing a little bit
we
about?
did.
Okay.
We've been going to, so here, I guess it's not like in the US. It wasn't a prevalent theme up until a couple of years ago.
Hmm. You
When
mean in your family or do you mean
in
culturally?
in Brussels, in
Okay.
Belgium.
Okay.
Um, so I started reading and informing myself in 2019, and then COVID hit,
Hmm.
and I was to keep the information to myself, basically. I was not to tell anybody
And
about
this
when
was who,
I'm a
like who's
girl.
saying you're not to tell anybody? Your kid
I'm
or
gonna tell
you?
you, my kid. My kid
Okay.
said, I want to tell you that I am a girl
Hmm.
and you cannot tell anybody. And I said, well, what I kind of have to ask questions. So I will go and ask. And also the information you found was US and UK. I mean, Anglo-Saxon. Um, I did convince my kid to talk to the psych. We had a pedo psychologist. I said, can we please talk to him because he knows you, and I need a little bit of guidance
Hmm.
because I don't know what to do. But it was COVID, so we were in the house, so it was kind of, I don't know if it was good or bad, but at least it lengthened the need for communicating with everybody. But then I also said, you got to tell your dad, um, because I cannot hold your truth.
Mm.
I also need to ask people questions, and your dad is from here, so he might be able to help me touch base with people here. But anyway,
Hmm.
so I asked around, I did research, da 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 da. Here, there's one hospital that actually does take children in questioning, but also in their desire to transition. But they only take them at 18 years old, if I'm not mistaken. And also, there's like a wait list of, I don't know. So I was like, okay, never mind. This is something that we need to start uh, working on now, like 2021. I found a couple of organizations here, and then through them, we found the name of a doctor who can accompany you um, in taking hormones. And I put my foot down. Absolutely not. Categorically. I have a degree in biochemistry and molecular biology,
Mm.
and I will not allow
Hmm.
any input to the system when the system is still figuring itself out.
Hmm. Hmm.
That was also part of our fights, but I said no.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very clear about this. No.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the father and I were both. Uh, we always have been very much in agreement about everything, which is a good thing. It makes it easier. Um, but then, when Gwen turned uh, 17, I just thought, listen, I know that you absolutely want to. We had been seeing this doctor for a couple of years by then. And I know that you have always had the intention of taking hormones, even though that is, I do not agree. That is
Mm-hmm.
not, I'm not convinced. I thought that there was other work that had to be done before.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, attention deficit disorder. The kid has a neuroatypical
Okay.
profile, of
Yeah.
course.
Okay.
Super
Mm-hmm.
smart, but
Mm-hmm.
so ahead of the curve in terms of intelligence
Mm-hmm.
intellectually, but behind the curve in terms of emotional maturity.
Mm-hmm.
And I always thought that it was manageable until it became not manageable,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know. And then we have a diagnosis of attention deficit, like severe attention deficit, that the neuropsychologist, the neurologist, I forget, neuropsychologist, I think, couldn't believe that this kid has had so many, like, amazing, the years, the grades, and everything, learns everything so fast. It's like, with this severe attention deficit, you must be exhausted all the time. No
Mm-hmm.
wonder, you
Mm-hmm.
know, but you still manage. So I thought, first we manage the depression and the tendency to anxiety and the attention deficit. Once that the system reaches an equilibrium and you learn about yourself, because it's not all about taking a pill for that and a pill for that, but about you learning, do I need to sleep more? Do I need to eat more of that? Do I need to I don't know. There are many ways that
Yeah.
you can learn to manage yourself as a system. And
Mm-hmm.
that was my requirement. But this kid was always like, "Meh, meh." I said, okay, listen, we've been here for 2 years. I know that your intention is to take hormones. I rather you take the hormones while you are under my roof and you have my support. So you have another year living with me,
Mm.
because at 18, you can do whatever you want, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
I
Okay.
will say that I'm going to go along with it, with one requirement, is that you absolutely continue, that you stick to one psychotherapist, psychologist, and that you work with this specialist to
Mm.
figure yourself out, work on yourself, because a
Mm.
pill or two pills or three
Mm-hmm.
pills are not going to be the answer.
Right. Okay.
But guess what? I am the one who has to find the psychotherapist, psychologist, blah blah, and it's
Mm-hmm.
never really worked. Find one and it doesn't work, and I'm like, you know what? Yeah, you're not going to be working with someone that, you know that doesn't jive. Where you don't, if you don't jive in the interaction with this
Yeah.
therapist, then you're not going to stay with them. But after a while, I was like, okay, we cannot be going through them. And then it takes me about 4 or 5, 6 months to find one that feels comfortable and competent working with a child like you. And then you go 2 sessions and you're like, no, it doesn't work. I'm like,
Mm.
I think that you're just running away from your responsibility.
Mm.
But I did find a therapist, a US based therapist. And of course, that is going beautifully,
Okay.
swimmingly, but it's super
Okay.
expensive because it's not covered by our insurance.
Right.
But I'm like, you know what? You continue working with the therapist um, for a few more months. It's been now a year. And I'm like, continue working, but you got to work on yourself, because the hormones are not the answer in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, the
Mm-hmm.
hormones created such a fresh hell, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
I mean,
what I'm
get
getting that
emotional.
too. Yes, that it's creating a fresh hell. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So what an interesting path you've been on, and, and I do think it's important. I love that you've pointed out a few times, you have a unique situation and you're careful not to generalize. I
Yeah.
certainly do a lot of generalizing because I do talk to lots of families and see
Mm,
the similarities among the stories, but that's a very unique approach, I think, at least among my listeners, to concede
mm,
to hormones while they're still underage. And yet I hear that um, rationale of right, is this going to, and I think I've even heard maybe through the grapevine that Stella has said a similar thing, and I don't want to misquote anybody, but um,
mm.
that sometimes that's what it takes to open the child up to that work, that
Right.
yes, that they're stuck in the web, right? And the only way to move forward is to concede sometimes to the very things that we're most afraid of.
Afraid of, because
Hmm.
I mean, that's the part that and maybe that's why I was always kind of not being really in touch with my feelings, is because I'm terrified. Like I said, have a degree in
Hmm.
biochemistry and molecular biology, so I know the inputs and outputs, and
Hmm.
that whenever you put something in, it goes and interacts with so many different things, and I
Yes.
could see it. And also the things that you don't know, precortex, um, I
Yeah.
mean, the influences of estrogen and progesterone on
Hmm.
brains that have been functioning in a testosterone driven
Yeah.
system are, I mean, we've heard what happens to this body when you input hormones that have not been there in the
Right.
system before. And I was, at the beginning, I was terrified, but I was like, okay, I'm saying I'm terrified and I do not agree with this, but it's your body, it's your life. And my
Yeah.
responsibility as a mother is to accompany you in the process of you learning who you are, building yourself. Um, as in as much as I can maintain the horizon open, I will. But if this is your decision, it is your decision.
Yeah. I'd love to hang out here for a little bit because I think this is so incredibly key what you're saying here, and that it's a different orientation than I think a lot of the moms who um, don't see the identity, of course, as being helpful to their child. Let's go with that, right? Like
Mm,
keep it that open. That there's kind of this idea that once they get on hormones, like you've lost the battle. Like the whole battle is to keep them from medicalizing. And then if they go on hormones, you've lost, it's over. They've ruined their life. And I think we really need to rethink that. I think it's super important. And what I'm hearing you say is my role as his mother is to be with him as he figures out who he is. And that doesn't mean that he's a woman. It means that this particular identity exploration is going to be part of his life journey.
the
He's
life
got to
journey.
move through it, regardless of where it leads. This is
Mm,
part of his experience now, and it is part of him figuring out who he is,
mhm.
you
Yeah,
know? Eh, And that is so difficult, but it takes a shift, right? It takes a shift in the thinking, and you did a good job of describing that, I think. So I appreciate that. And I
it
want
is.
to also, though, I need to kind of come from this place of I am not encouraging anybody to put their child on hormones. I'm
No.
just saying, like, can we reorient to the circumstance in a way that puts you beside your child
Yeah.
rather than
I think
opposed to their
because
experience? Yeah.
the fighting
Hmm.
against, it's not going to get you anywhere
Yeah.
and nowhere in any interaction. It's like
Right.
nonviolent communication.
Yeah.
There are
Right.
two opposing views. You cannot confront.
It's
You're
one of
going to
those
have to find a common
forces.
ground.
Yes, that's one of those when we were talking earlier about the child cannot resist the forces working on them. And that is any human. When
Mhm.
somebody is coming at you in opposition and telling you you're wrong, Your instinct is to dig in and defend yourself, and you will dig in deep. And so,
Mhm.
yes, it just doesn't work. And it's driving families apart.
Part. And it's so sad because I think really what's most important really is that you're not estranged and separate from your family, because at during this period I don't in the exploration that the kid, that the human is going through, there is you are separate, you know how in yoga they tell, the practice of meditation is so that you overcome the mirage of you being separate from the whole. Well, I think that
Hmm.
this exploration of I was born this and now I think I'm that, and I'm like, why can't you be David Bowie? That's what I feel.
Hmm.
Or
Hmm.
Prince, right?
Yes.
I don't know. This is
Yes.
what I grew up with, and like, but that's me. That's my mind of my experience, my life in different cities with different influences, and where I am today.
Hmm.
Let's you and I have a conversation, and you are exploring. So what I can do for you is I be next to you. I'm freaking out because I just don't agree with that. Also, I just don't believe that this is, I just don't believe this 100% because it's a social evolution
Yes.
and you are at the forefront of this evolution, and you're going to
Yes.
have to bear the brunt of it, and you're going to have
Yes.
to pay the price
Hmm. Hmm.
regardless, right?
And
So
that's
how
just
can
the
I be
world
with
we
you,
birthed our children into. That is
right?
nobody's fault. Hmm.
No,
Yeah, go
that's
ahead.
what's
Sorry.
happening. So
Hmm.
this concept of nonviolent communication, which again requires
Marshall
compassion.
Rosenberg. Yes.
Mhm.
Hmm.
It's compassion, it's
Yes.
listening,
Yes.
it's figuring out, okay, where can we stand next to each other so that we're not
Yes.
separate.
Yes. Yep.
So it's also collective intelligence. Two
Hmm.
heads think much better than one, right?
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
and then
Yes.
the third one is no matter how freaked out and terrified you are, and also perhaps angry sometimes,
Hmm.
can you leave behind that fear and give space to something else? Curiosity.
Hmm.
So to me, actually, now that we're talking about it, as I look back, it has always been, so what didn't work, I already shared with you. What has worked is to find that common ground.
Yes.
Thank you to Rosenberg, yes.
Yes.
So that you are not separate, because separateness is the most painful thing, and that's
Yep.
from yoga. And then,
Hmm. Hmm.
re- I mean, yes, there's fear, but fear doesn't get you anywhere, like Yoda said. So how can you,
Yeah.
instead of fear or acknowledging the fear, give space for something else like curiosity? So I think that that has gotten us far,
Yeah.
and we are in a much better place today than we were um, before, in spite of in spite of the year that we had. Um,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'll post in the show notes a little something about Marshall Rosenberg and nonviolent communication, NVC. Yeah. I love that idea of collective intelligence because that's what to me, the opposite of fear is trust, right? Trust. And so I think that's what he invites us to do is to, yes, trust in our capacity to figure something out together,
together.
yes, rather than arguing about strategies, I think is what he would say. My strategy is you drop this identity. Their strategy is this, I need to do this for my well-being. It's about transcending all of that and looking at the actual needs that are being met and coming to working
Yeah.
together to find a solution. Yeah. I don't know. Is that how you see it?
Yeah, because also the minute um, the minute you start seeing the kid and you as enemies, but you will become enemies, and the needs of the kid are going to completely eat away from your needs, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So then it's like you lost it. That, I mean, like, there's not even a battle to win there. There's no battles to win. It will always be eroding and eating away from the needs of all.
Yes. Well, isn't that what battles do?
Always. Because I mean, like, oh, you might win the battle, or what is that saying that about winning a battle but not winning the war? And I'm like, no, sorry, but all battles
I'm with
are
you.
eroding.
Yeah.
Whether you are the last one standing,
Yeah.
you probably will be standing there without a leg. So sorry about that.
Well, and then a battle is it's just one moment, and there will be future battles. Yes. So yeah, then you just keep battling. Can we find a way that is
not battling,
right, not violent? Yeah, which can be a bit of a buzzword these days, but I do understand that languaging, right? Rather
or not
than
fighting.
Wielding power over, or controlling, as you were talking about before. Yes, which we are inclined to do. We want to control our experience, and this requires a bit of a surrender, and a recognition that we don't get everything we want. We need to work together to find solutions that work for everybody. Yeah. I want to get to what you entered into the forum as what worked for you. You said unconditional love. And in parentheses, you said, which is a practice. And so I would love your thoughts on unconditional love as a practice.
Well, so you think that as a mother, you are the epitome, you're the dictionary definition of unconditional love, right? But you're not.
But you're not.
You're not. I'm here to burst our bubbles, mothers. We are not. Why? Because we grow up, and I can quite easily and confidently generalize that we as mothers grow up in a world that tells us that we got to give everything to our children. Like, even from the minute that we carry them, right? We give everything. Like my mom said, I lost a couple of teeth when I had you. I was like, oh, thanks for the calcium, Mom. Like, it's a joke, but is that in order to give life, you got to give your own life. And it is a very difficult and painful thing to accept that, and I'm going to use another cliche, is that you can only help others if an airplane is going down, or there's no oxygen in the plane. The only way that you can really help someone else is first you put your oxygen mask, otherwise you're going to faint, right? And that to me became like, oh my God, that's right, the motto. If I'm not well, if I'm completely bananas, and I am also angry and lost and disappointed, there is no way I can do anything for this child that is going through this complexity. So when I talk about unconditional love, is towards me first as a human, to also forgive myself for all the mistakes I made, for all the assumptions, for all the half actions, for all the missteps. And then once I start kind of getting into that space where I am a little bit more relaxed, and I am also taking care of myself, because I'm realizing that I am stressed and this and that and the other, then really and literally, that's why I say that it's a practice, because I can see it when I pay attention to myself as a human. I want to eat and I need to sleep, and I also have to express what I'm needing at this moment, not so that someone satisfies it, or I mean, not so that my kid satisfied the need, but so that I say, I really need to sleep in.
Mm-hmm.
And could you do not come into my room, although my room is always, the door is open because the cats come and sleep with me.
Mm-hmm.
But do not come and wake me up. Do not, don't. Don't even say, Mama, what about this or what about that? No, don't. I need to
A
sleep in.
boundary around your health. Mm-hmm.
And just to say, today I need to be quiet. I
Mm-hmm.
need, because it's like 11 p.m. Oh, so what about this and that? I'm like, nope, nope. I,
Mm-hmm.
I, oh, but don't be so mean. Nope, that's not being mean. That's being, I've spent the whole day talking in meetings and doing and da 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 da. I went to the grocery store. Now I need quiet.
Mm-hmm.
That is what I mean by a practice, because it feels very selfish. But also because then I get the space and it's like a calmness where I can be a little bit more empathetic towards my kid. And I am not stressed and I am not afraid and I am not demanding of the kid. So I can be more lovingly, unconditionally when I am feeling better. When I am,
When you're coming from a full place, it sounds like, yes. Okay.
yes, I'm not tired and frantic. And
Yeah. Depleted, yes. Mm-hmm.
I started feeling that I was asphyxiating. And
Yeah, you used that word earlier. Uh-huh.
because so I felt that I had that sensation, and I kid you
Mm-hmm.
not, I almost
Mm-hmm.
asphyxiated last year when we were in the US with my family, as we always do. A candy got stuck on my throat,
Oh,
and I almost asphyxiated. I mean,
wow.
the fire truck and the ambulance had to come. I got cracked
Huh.
ribs from the
Oh gosh.
experience. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. So it was like,
Yeah.
um, I felt asphyxiated, and there you go. I mean, look, it's stupid. A candy from a restaurant, right? And I was like, oh my God. Okay, that's like a sign to me that I really have to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I gotta mother my. I don't know. I gotta like take myself in charge, like of myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I had to. I had broken ribs. I couldn't talk.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Mm,
So this is what it really feels like to be asphyxiated. And how do you avoid this? And I would imagine more mindfulness, more presence.
presence, because what's
Mm-hmm.
really funny is that to me the answer to not have had that horrible experience, of which I still feel the sequel of, because my ribs are still, my diaphragm is still
Mm.
coming back
Mm-hmm.
to normal.
Mm-hmm.
So a year later,
Mm-hmm.
um, is to be more mindful, because I was getting out of the car. We had come from a restaurant and I just threw a candy in my mouth and
Mm-hmm.
we were laughing, and
Oh
the candy just
gosh.
went, and I was like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so unconditional love, but really.
I'm curious. Yeah. I love that you start with that unconditional love for self, so that you can parent from a full place, not a depleted place. Would you say that unconditional love for your child is a practice?
Yes, because I mean, all along I felt that I became a satellite, like I became the moon,
Mm,
and the kid was, yeah, I was the moon, I was a satellite.
mm,
Everything was for the kid.
hmm.
So,
And that you revolved around him. Is
mhm,
that okay?
yeah,
Your life revolved around your child. Hmm.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Because we lived here, far away from family.
Hmm.
It's not my country, and
Would you say that's the
yeah, I
same
didn't
as,
work.
is that the same as unconditional love? To be a satellite?
No, that is not. That
Okay.
is not at all. That's not unconditional love. That's relinquishing.
Mm,
It's very different.
hmm.
See, that's why unconditional love is a practice, is because it's very difficult to do it, really do it.
Yeah.
That, what a mom does and like sacrifice. I mean, of course, we have to sacrifice
Yes.
because kids are little. We
Yes.
got to do the things that have to be done.
Yes.
But at a certain point, we got to recognize that there has to be an equilibrium. And I'm not saying, hey, mom, stop going grocery shopping and don't do the laundry and things, right?
Yeah.
But you make your choices. Um, I could have lived my life very differently for 10 years, but I made choices. And then one choice led to another, led to another, led to another. And then all of a sudden, I didn't have a life. I didn't work. I took care of the kid. I mean, of course, it has a lot to do with the fact that we are here in,
Yeah.
still, it was a choice after a choice after a choice. That is not unconditional love. That's just like forgetting yourself, relinquishing your life. Whereas coming back now and saying, I love you unconditionally, not at the expense of anything else, but also recognizing who you are, what you need without eating away
Yeah.
from me.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. Oh,
right.
totally. Yes. I think yeah, you said something earlier about like you need to be full so that you are not expecting the child to meet your needs, like, and how important that is to be in a healthy relationship with your child rather than relinquishing, right? I do think there's some kind of expectation that moms have that the child will be able to see the sacrifice and appreciate the sacrifice, but they don't have any idea. They can't until they are parents themselves. That is not something that they're capable, I think, of understanding, how profound that sacrifice is. But that, yes, we can't completely sacrifice ourselves, our sense of self, to the job of motherhood.
Because
Otherwise, we will then have needs of the kid that they cannot meet for us. Yes. Yeah.
And in this
Mm-hmm.
particular situation that we are
Mm-hmm.
confronting, we can get so lost in
Yeah.
trying to plug all the holes that we see. But instead of that,
Yeah.
you know how it feels is that you're trying to plug all the holes because we're
Mm-hmm.
sacrificing, we're giving, we're doing it for the kid. But we think, oh, we're plugging all the holes so that the ship stays afloat, and they feel like we're just putting our fists inside of their mouth, because we're doing and
Mm-hmm.
overdoing. Mm.
Mm-hmm. 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 And they're not able, I think, to do for themselves when mom is doing all of that. Yes. Yeah.
Very
Yeah. And so even in this, we're not beside them. We're behind them, pushing them along,
good.
right? Or we're in front of them,
Mhm.
dragging them where we want them to go, right? Instead of being beside them, supporting them, yes, but letting them
Mm.
be in their experience with us there as support. Yeah.
It's hard though.
Which is so
It's
hard. So
it's
hard.
scary.
Yeah. Mhm. It is scary because you've got to let go of that control, huh? And and open yourself up to uncertainty and to your child's pain,
Hmm.
which is so incredibly difficult. Yeah. I'm curious, what do you hope other moms will get out of this conversation?
Hope.
Hmm.
I hope that they will get hope
Yeah.
that it's nothing is lost.
Hmm.
That there's always a way,
Hmm.
and every day there's always a way. Um, oh, I'm getting emotional because you just want your child to
Hmm.
live a life full of mangoes. I love
I
mangoes.
do
So I'm
too.
like, what I imagine is that I would like my kid to just have a life full of mangoes, right? Like juicy mangoes everywhere.
Mm,
And it's so hard with the pain that
yeah.
with the pain that my kid feels and confusion, and but there's nothing I can do. That's the experience of my kid, and
Mm,
I will be next, walking alongside.
hmm. Beautiful. Thank you, Ana Luisa. This has been a really, really deep conversation. I appreciate you. I appreciate you filling out the form and being willing to put yourself out there and talk with me for the Stoic Mom audience. Yeah. So thank
I
you.
love stoicism, by the way. It's like I want to. That's me, equanimity. That has been,
Hmm.
people search for happiness. Now I search for e- equanimity,
Yes.
balance, right? That's
Yes.
what I want.
Yeah. Inner peace. Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. And that's that's the orientation that I would like
Right.
to see mamas
Right.
shift to. Hmm. Hmm. That's the project right there.
That's beautiful. It's a practice
Hmm.
every day.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's great, right? Every day.
Every day. That's right. We will be given opportunities to practice, yes, and develop that capacity for equanimity. Yes. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you so much. You've been listening to Conversations Along the Way, part of the Stoic Mom Project. If you're interested in connecting with other moms who are supporting each other to grow through the most difficult things life will throw at us, we invite you to consider joining us in the S&P Online Community Center. This is a private, vetted community created specifically for moms who share this circumstance. For more information and to express interest in joining, please visit the S&P Community Center tab at stoicmom.substack.com to learn more, or simply fill out the application included in the show notes of this episode. Thanks for listening, and hang in there, Mama. There's light at the end of this tunnel.